Well, here we are once again for part 2 of this obsessive-compulsive autopsy on what should have been a Game of the Year candidate, but which sadly ended up being most ESG-compliant game in the franchise candidate, and possibly video game with the most amount of unfunny jokes candidate. I can't stress enough that I did enjoy playing this game, but it has a lot of problems, and it certainly isn't the game it could have been. So let's dive right into the heavily bleached septic tank and start with an examination of the mercenaries, their annoying, quasi-tourettic dialogue, and examine the reasons why the game ended up feeling a bit sterile and corporate. Much has been said about the repeated dialogue of the mercs. Personally, I think this is a mixed bag, if I'm being generous. Steroid bores the fuck out of me. It's 2023, and tired old jokes about bodybuilders with Austrian accents are about as relevant as mocking umbrellas or top hats. It has no point anymore, especially since he was the first and most successful bodybuilding movie star, became a household name, then became a successful politician, even if his politics frequently sucked the sweat off a dead tramp's balls. Love him or hate him, Arnie is a legend now, even if you don't personally like the guy. He is Hercules, he is Conan, and he's also a little bit Stalin, but he is a legend regardless. Arnie jokes are old now. They're like knock-knock jokes, or the jokes you find in Christmas crackers. In some ways it shows how stale modern entertainment culture has become, that supposed comedy writers still need to mock a character from the 1980s in the 2020s. I appreciate they wanted to take a trip down memory lane and homage the 80s, but they needed to do a bit better than "I am stupid man with Austrian accent, yah." It's not funny and it's barely relevant. What are they going to do for an encore? Make jokes about Judy Garland whilst George Formby plays a ukulele in the background?
If you can see what I can see when I'm cleaning windows.
This issue aside, the vocal character emojis are basically a matter of taste, but the repetitiveness can become punishing. I shit-canned Steroid at one point and used him as a postman and FedEx delivery dude and replaced him with a sinister creeper German because I found his voice more soothing. Livewire was kind of tolerable. Fox just seemed like a thought, and not in a good way. Grizzly was at least pleasant enough. Barry's dry irony was at least not grating. Larry, however, is legend. I'm serious, absolutely serious. He never gets old.
Like a dozer in kindergarten.
Just clicking on him and he might say, "What?" Like you're breaking his concentration and pulling him out of his daydream. It's literally hilarious playing with a team member who reacts like you're disturbing him, like he's furtively smoking a bifter behind a rock. And there it is. Some of this characterisation is going to hit and some will miss, and most will probably miss. But when it misses, you'll be hearing the same annoying quips every few minutes for many, many hours.
Like sneak up.
But I will say this. Larry works. Shame that comedy gold wasn't replicated across more mercenaries. I also found it strange that the Mercs models didn't seem to update with gear changes. Now maybe this is a confabulated memory, but I was sure that in Jagged Alliance Back in Action, your Mercs' appearance would change based on the armour they were dressed up in. In Jagged Alliance 3 they seem to be holding the guns that you give them, but apparently they skipped the whole clothing thing. "Maybe I missed an option somewhere," he says, being generous. But I found this profoundly odd since it's kinda strange when one of your guys is wearing an outfit similar to an IED suit in Hurt Locker, but during combat he's running around wearing what honestly looks like a flouncy summer shirt and waistcoat. I guess modelling clothing costs money. Am I right? I'm sure someone will claim that this is a stylistic choice, but I would guess it's a financial one. Modelling all the clothing items and scaling them to the already bloated graphics files is a cost I think they just decided to skip. The modification system is somewhat questionable. Now, I have played the Division franchise, so I am painfully familiar with weapon mods that have more in common with Harry Potter than Sniper Elite. This is not my beef. Sure, some of them are ridiculous, but for a Jagged Alliance game, it's tolerable. Suppressors for once don't reduce damage. That was nice. And bipods make your guns more accurate when you're prone, which is excellent. It's an overall mixed bag of reasonable and slightly ridiculous, and that is fine. The implementation, however, is absolutely insulting. Basically, you have a percentage chance of successfully applying a mod, and the game spins a little wheel of RNG's fortune, and it either succeeds or fails, but the cost of failure is offensive. It's a complete dick punch for the player. You see, high-level mods require much more materials. High-level mods are more likely to fail. Even with maxed out mechanical skill, they can still fail. When they fail, you not only damage the gun, but you also lose all the materials you used to try and make the mod. To put this in perspective, it's like this. Imagine taking your gun to a gunsmith and asking them to add a sniper scope. They are trying to install it, but something goes wrong. But instead of tinkering with it, naturally, they get out a giant fucking lump hammer, smash your scope to bits, smash off the scope mounts, and throw your gun into a barrel of salt water to fuck it up. Basically, the modding attempt works, or your mechanic has a temper tantrum, damages the rifle and destroys all of your hard-earned shit. This is not a fun idea. This just felt like more 4X bullshit infecting the game mechanics. But more about 4X later. It's not fun to deconstruct a bunch of weapons, patiently collect all the raw materials, get lucky looting for that lens, microchip or both, then get 2 ominous clicks twice in a row, only to discover that an in-game month's worth of scavenging has just dematerialised down the shitter for no reason more significant than some developer thought it would be funny to piss you about. Seriously, just fuck off with this kind of mechanic. It is disrespectful of the player's time and investment in the game. It's a big fuck you and a huge neon sign flashing above the game announcing that people at this studio don't make this sort of game very often. I once shat about 100 pieces of scrap, a lens and a microchip all down the shitter, and whilst I suppose I could theoretically have save scummed to get the mods to work and the materials back, the very fact that this game is so reliant on save scumming mechanics just goes to show how the RNG elements of this game are poorly conceived, inadequately balanced, and a little bit amateurish. I'm sorry, but this is amateur hour system implementation. Credit to them, mind. It's the best save system I've seen in a video game in as long as I can remember. It automatically files your saves according to which playthrough you're on. It auto-saves every turn in combat. It auto-saves when you enter and finish combat. It's a brilliant bookmarking system, but it's also a bit of a telltale sign that they were trying to take the edge off the infuriation caused by RNG. The combat evolution was thoroughly satisfying at least. I will try not to give spoilers, but as the game and the story evolves, naturally the enemies and the weaponry you face evolves too, because video games. It's a no-brainer that when enemies start hurling grenades and using RPGs against you, that you will naturally cark it and panic. Figuratively, and for your squad members possibly literally. But later on, other things will enter the fray and it turns into a mini arms race, as you try and counter new enemy tactics, weapons and their generally higher resilience and damage output. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I would just suggest that you refrain from deconstructing the following items for parts: gas masks, any named weapon, and a Winchester rifle. Let's just say that the challenges you face as the game evolves may result in unforeseen ammo shortages, combat challenges, and maybe force you to adjust your tactics. If in doubt, stash it somewhere safe, maybe in a little centralised stash somewhere out in the woods or desert. There's a clue there. Despite all of the myriad of issues, the combat is strangely satisfying when RNG is not playing up. Despite the weapon Harry Pottery, the annoying vocal wokery and the costumes disparity, nevertheless I still found it fun. I just like that little team building, upgrading and tactics development that comes with games like Jagged Alliance 3. No two playthroughs end up the same because as your skills and preferences evolve, so too does your team tactics. Now combine this with the luck of the draw with loot drops which require you to make the best of what you've got. Your squads usually end up different because they follow their own unique trajectory. Whilst I had 2 squads at one point that I tried to set up identically, because of different loot drops, different amounts of materials for modding and different skills on the mercs, whilst they converged over time, they were both different in how they operated in combat. One aspect of the combat that really did work, despite the ridiculousness of much of the core mechanics, was this. It replicated the macroscopic nature of war on the microscopic level of the battle encounters, in as much as you are trying to break the enemy as much as kill them. In a real life military campaign or in an old fashioned Napoleonic field battle, it was not just about raw kill ratios, but rather trying to leverage the enemy to fail. You didn't just want your cannons to fire most effectively, but also dramatically. You didn't get satellite reports mid-battle of casualties and losses. You wanted to see enemy units break, shit their pants and run fleeing through the units behind, and you wanted the enemy to see this and strike fear into the units they fled through. Much of the true carnage of the battlefield happened after the enemy is demoralised, confused and in panic, and their opposition is bearing down on them. It's not supposed to be a fair fight. As some general famously said, no bastard ever won a war by dying for his country. He won it by shooting some other poor dumb bastard in the back whilst they were fleeing and firing white phosphorus on the escape routes. I may have slightly edited that quote, but you get my point. The combat in Jagged Alliance 3 is not really combat in its essence, it's a miniaturised version of a battlefield or regional war shrunk down in microcosm. This is the part of the game they did well, and it makes the game compelling, even if it's simultaneously annoying that a game that should have based its combat more on OG XCOM instead decided to opt for a more theatre-based structure akin to something like old school Total War, where breaking the morale of the enemy ranks was frankly more important than the actual killing. Well, the killing that happened before you ran down the fleeing enemy on horseback and did the serious murderising. The whole introduction of 4X elements into the game is a bit of a bore. For those of you who don't know, or those of you who are simply not pretentious enough to care, 4X means explore, expand, exploit, exterminate. It's a subgenre of RTS, don't you know? You know those people who unnecessarily correct your pronunciation for no reason other than to aggrandise themselves? Well, 4X is basically the video game equivalent of that arsehole. In practical usable terms, 4X could be best described thusly. It's basically RTS, only they shoehorn in unnecessary and annoying mechanics to artificially and arbitrarily crank up the pressure over time, and frequently it can be based on your own success. Essentially, the game forces you to play at a pace dictated by the game and not the player. On top of this, the pace is strictly speaking not dictated by the game, but it is dictated by the wank mechanics that they stuff into the game for no other purpose than to dictate the pace, to put you under time pressure, to make you rush to success. It's like in the recent Dune game, where there were mechanics that forced you to expand and increase your industrial output by kind of basically punishing you every time you expanded and increased your industrial output. Get my drift? 4X is when you have mechanics that only exist to artificially create time pressure because somebody somewhere confused the word pressure with excitement. It's like how some games will punish you when you do well, raise taxes, raise costs or reduce income arbitrarily just to hurry you up. And it's like how Jagged Alliance 3 makes all the mines gradually run out of diamonds to create the arbitrary timer ticking down on your income. for zero logical reasons or purpose other than to time gate your playthrough. It's a bit like badly handled national debt. The more you borrow, the more you need to borrow, the more you need to bus in shit tons of young working age migrants, legal or otherwise, just to prop up the working population, to service the debt and keep making the pension payments on your ageing population. 4X is basically a video game Ponzi scheme. Well, I'm not convinced that the inclusion of these elements in Jagged Alliance 3 really add anything. Why can't you just bimble around, take your time and save up lots of cash? But you have to push forward to take diamond mines, but they eventually deplete, and you lose the income, forcing you to drive forward and take more diamond mines, and eventually drives you forward to finish the game. You start out piss poor, so you diligently train up and season your noob mercenaries, just so they can start ramping up their weekly fee to the point where they are sometimes more expensive than just renting experienced mercenaries off the shelf. You see, there's no point to playing this game at any pace. That should be up to the player. And whilst these arbitrary 4X elements don't define this game, I don't see why they bother with them at all. It's not fun, it's not exciting, it does not add to the enjoyment. The core game mechanics do not require this. The 4X elements are bolted on as an addition, supplementary to the real game mechanics, like someone strapping a timed explosive to your car engine. It doesn't add to the excitement of going for a Sunday drive, it just makes you shit yourself and look at your watch every few minutes and mutter under your breath, "Fuck it, I guess I'd better get a move on then." Now, some of the mercenary fee misery can be mitigated by using free mercs. From the get-go, you're able to buy out one custom merc and name them, then use them for free. And there are a few other free mercs you can recruit along the way, but I would cautiously suggest that this is more of a strategy for a second playthrough unless you're going to bust out guides on who and where they are from the start of your first playthrough. Personally, I have thus far managed to recruit one, and I've found a second, but I can't seem to recruit him because of decisions I made earlier in the playthrough that have apparently pissed him off. For all I know, I might have murdered the rest by accident, but it swings and roundabouts really, because murder is funny, right? The tactical maps are beautiful, and they are what you would ideally like from a Jagged Alliance game. Multiple elevations, destructible environments, cover, concealment, choke points, defensible positions, kill zones, and frequently access points which you can exploit if you know the terrain, did enough recon, or simply studied it a lot between turns. Every single square on the strategy map is a cell, and it has its own map which you can visit on foot with your little murdering scumlords, explore and have battles there. Sure, some of them are just swampy dumps or desert beaches, but a surprising amount of the maps are well designed and supremely enjoyable to fight in. The in-game XP gains for skills seem a bit unbalanced. Certain attributes rarely ever seem to level up by use, but agility and dexterity would ping up like a traffic light frequently for just doing something in a battle. Something that by default you're going to be doing a lot. Similarly, marksmanship leveled up reasonably well, and it's actually rather impressive that in this age of ESG Nazi censorship, marksmanship is still called marksmanship. I'm sure it's just a matter of time before it's called markswomanship, or marks non-binary shipness.
I'd love to be a fisher them.
What, like a fly fisherman?
I'd be any type of fisher them.
Fisher them.
The extreme autosave function speaks volumes about this game, and it is literally one of the most sophisticated and multi-threaded save systems I've ever seen. For a start, it autosaves at pretty much every key point. It autosaves every turn in combat, it autosaves with playthrough specific save lists, it autosaves at every specific story event moment, specific to your specific playthrough. It is actually quite impressive. It does, however, force the conclusion that they know damn well that the game throws you into unwinnable situations. They know damn well that the RNG might buttfuck you. And they know damn well people will be forced to save scum. So what they did was introduce a sophisticated playthrough specific auto-save scumming save point system. Well done. It is very clear that this save system is a response to the game's own outcomes. They clearly beta tested the shit out of this and realised there was a problem. They also know damn well that the combination of RNG, blindsiding story scenarios and the random moments when just speaking to some dude in a market can trigger a 20-to-1 prison rape combat scenario at point blank range. They knew that this game could behave worse than that road traffic accident scene in Meet Joe Black. Make no mistake, a developer doesn't go to all the trouble of installing a complex autosave scumming system in a video game unless they know, factually, that the game is going to periodically blindside you unless you're on a second or third playthrough. All that being cogitated, you will still want to tactically manually save before big decisions just to save yourself the misery of going back through the save history and using trial and error to find that particular moment where you made that one innocent decision that ended up with you walking into the metaphorical prison cell and having the towel wrapped around your face while you are held down on the bunk. There is this double-edged sword with Jagged Alliance. It does stupid stuff that infuriates you when you start playing, but the longer you play, the more you unconsciously game and cheese the systems, and the more you tolerate it. It would just be nice after all these years if they fixed the game systems to be a bit more combat and slightly less Dungeons and Dragons. Because I'll put up with this shit, but I would rather not have to. And maybe that's a factor in this game. Sometimes they spend a bit too much time working on the flavour and not enough on the substance in the game, and this coalesces in the most particularly infuriating way when the following happens. Your team entirely fucks up their whole turn because RNG decides to bugger you sideways, but all the while your most annoying mercenaries are making unfunny wisecracks to lighten the mood. And it all just makes it so much worse. Now, I thoroughly appreciate them trying to introduce humour and put a jocular spin on the combat shenanigans. Be quiet now! But most of the time it just felt a bit off. Like they put an advert online saying, "Writers wanted, nobody over the age of 21, must not have any life experience or opinions that matter, must be capable of not offending anyone, ever." I don't know, perhaps I'm being too harsh, but it's 2023 for fuck's sake. Surely there must be something relevant and cheeky they could make jokes about. I appreciated the one very subtle dig at PETA and the stupid do-gooder trying to save the dangerous animals, and I frankly was surprised there was no openly woke statements about diversity, 7 transgender mercenaries and lots of obese player characters. I'm a video game fatty myself, so I'm not in a rush to have body positivity thrown in my face. But mostly it was student loans jokes.
I'll bet this is worth almost a full semester of school tuition.
Comments about the male gaze and asides about nudes. There was just something slightly disingenuous about the humour. It was like they were really references and not jokes. They were like the first half of the joke, but with the punchline removed, so people could choose to get the reference and take away their own meaning, but not enough was said that anyone could claim offence. I may be overanalyzing the writing in this game, but I'm certainly spending less time analysing it than they spent sanitising it. On at least some subliminal level, my unconscious mind knows something is wrong with the writing in this game. My noob tips for dying less in Jagged Alliance 3. Well, first off, you have to recognise that the real enemy is not the actual enemy. The enemy soldiers are just the idiots standing in front of your firing line. RNG is the true foe on this battlefield. Whether it be in gear, weapon mods, perks or strategy, you have to constantly anticipate the worst possible outcome of piss poor mockingly laughing RNGesus. Try and lay down multiple arcs of fire on choke points so there is enough weight of fire, even if your goofy-eyed drunk squad members miss their shots, like they all decided to put paper bags over their heads. Never assume your guys will catch that runner with a melee weapon. Always be thinking at least a turn ahead, so that you leave yourself options if he just runs right through your guys and gets to a vulnerable member at the back. Always position your troops so that they are delivering the maximum amount of pain on the most focused area of the enemy, so that even if random chance screws you, you will still have some form of counter. Use squad tactics until you come up with better plans. You know the drill, the hammer and the anvil. Have a backline of skilled snipers with long guns and cautiously scout using a few units covered by their firing arcs. There are ways to combine certain weapons with certain perks, so you can literally run around chaining attacks and stuffing your shotgun up each enemy's arse one at a time and blowing their capacity to procreate out to the tops of their heads. But until such time as you figure that out, stick with the basic infantry tactics that worked for centuries. Bring a gun, preferably a long gun, and bring lots of friends with guns. Then face them all in one direction, creating a kill zone, and turn people into leaking flesh sacks. Utilise your noob tubes. Those random 40mm grenades you keep picking up. Don't wait for the grenade launcher to drop. Eventually, grab a battle rifle, mod it with a 40mm noob tube and pack it as a secondary weapon. Ammo is sparse, but a single well-placed 40 mic can save a squad member's life. Take out a high value target, change the terrain by blowing a hole in a wall, or even turn the tide on a battle. Plus, it's a relatively safe way to level up your explosive skills without bouncing any nades back on your own squad. Besides, as anyone who has watched Generation Kill will tell you, 40mm grenades can be hilarious fun. I mean, obviously this was a tragedy. Kinda hilarious fun though. It's just an actor. Calm down. Weight of Fire is king. Despite the fantastical nature of some of the gunplay, perks and mods, certain truisms from the real world still play out here, which is probably why I love this game despite all its multitudinous and comprehensive inventory of flaws. One of which is, bring the absolute maximum force against the focus part of your enemy. Don't send all your guys off in different directions unsupported. Not only will there be nobody there to heal them if they get downed, but you don't want to face plant around a corner into 4 guys. You want to be the 4 guys, going around the corner and bumping into that one guy. Use choke points to channel the enemy, create kill zones, line up 4 snipers and aggro the enemy into the crossfire, use overwatch, long guns, ambushes and numerical superiority. Fighting fair is for gladiators, toffs and idiots. Spend time studying the in-game info and tooltips. Normally, I frown on reading, learning and expanding my knowledge. I mean, why waste time learning shite when you could save time and effort by just clinging to the things you believe are true and stubbornly defending them in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary? I've spent enough time on social media to know that this is what most people do these days. Sadly, however, frequently in video games things go slightly better if you bite the pillow and embrace the pain of receiving a little wisdom. Read the tooltips, the mod details, what the stats really do. Rather than assuming what they do, learn how to do those boring operations that are easy to ignore when you just want to fight and study the map. I know what you're thinking. Facts are frequently inconvenient and get in the way of a good narrative. But like I said, trust me, bite the pillow on this one. Recon in force. Always keep a note of the locations of where the travel nodes and the routes are on the tactical map, so if things don't go your way in a fight you can bug out ASAP. Similarly, when on the attack, remember you can use this to your advantage. I have taken out large bases with a noob crew by poking at them multiple times. I go in, take out a few bad guys, then leave, using my finely honed running away skills. Sometimes whilst literally camping on the evacuation point. It is not an honourable or skillful way to take a sector, but it is a way to whittle down the enemy until all the bad men are gone. Just remember that it is absolutely critical to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Stay one turn beyond your welcome and suddenly your ambush becomes their counter ambush. Don't forget that the enemy will be moving up their RPG guys, heavy gunners and support behind the flank you are attacking. Once the support catches up with their defensive line, the battle can flip completely and instantly. One of your guys might panic and run off, someone else might get hit by an RPG, and your lightning hit and run attack turned right into a bloodbath. Similarly, learn where the ports are, because if you get dropped off across the water by boat, you might put yourself in a position where you have a very long walk and multiple zones to capture before you can get that ferry home. Search every square inch of every single square of the map. There is always something worth checking out in any map square, regardless of whether it's occupied by the enemy or not. There are secret stashes hidden in trees, medical supplies to farm, and NPCs to interact with. My backup squad mostly just poodled around red squares checking for random crap and ended up with 500 medical supplies and a bunch of random loot. Just watch out for the wildlife. And I mean really watch out for the wildlife. If you catch my drift. Always keep your squads busy. Fuck knows you pay the whining ungrateful fucks enough money, so you might as well go full Amazon warehouse on their asses and squeeze every last minute of productivity out of their time. Think Vietnamese clothing sweatshop. You know, the people that make expensive designer clothes for 13 pence a pop. Even if they're locked down in a sector and can't move because they're choking off waves of enemy attacks, between fights they should be training militia, training each other, repairing their gear or scouting. Don't let them sit around idle unless they are fatigued and need a little nap time. And don't forget R&R breaks. In game, just like in real life, if you can't afford to treat your wounds with proper medical supplies, heading off to the bar to get pissed will heal everything up naturally. That's what I do at least, and I'm fit as a fiddle. A fat fiddle. A very out of shape, fat, slightly busted fiddle. Depending on the type of loadout and squad composition you have, some of the missions will be a red herring for you. For example, I don't tend to melee, shotgun, YOLO or engage in any other combat activity that requires standing up or packing up my barbecue and marshmallows. So if I get a mission demanding one of my guys gets 3 kills at point blank range, that would practically be suicide for me. But if it's something that gets 5 limb shots, it's not going to put my squad in danger, I will give it a shot. Your medic is the most important person in the squad, especially if you keep getting shot. Do not treat your medic like they're a weak guy running around fixing your boo-boos. Your combat medic is literally the most important person on the squad, and you need to keep them alive so they can do their job. And most of their job is cleaning up after your fuck-ups. Setting aside the fact that better medical skill means more healing, better medical skill check results in quests, and they heal up your wounds faster after battle, they are critical in the field during combat when things go south and fighters get downed. Personally, I prioritise my squad medic for the best armour first, and until he is a competent fighter, I tend to keep him in a central position, slightly behind the main battle line. I think it's wise to periodically train the whole squad in medicine to raise their level, and I make sure that all my guys carry a first aid kit or preferably a med kit, so if they get pinned down whilst isolated from the group, they can do a semi-decent job of patching themselves up and repairing their own cranial bullet wounds. But, make no mistake, having a supercharged medic geared up in the heaviest ballistic armour you can find and upgrade, running around behind your battle line, healing up your squad members, can end up being as effective as your actual DPS output, especially if you're doing lots of battles in a row. There is a reason why in real life the military treat their medics like they are the most important member of any squad, and it's because they make the difference between being injured and not coming home. Learn the hotkeys. I'm a fairly lazy gamer who is particularly drawn to any game where I can camp hard, drink beer and do everything with one hand. I mean, you guys have seen how I camp in close quarters combat maps in Call of Duty like Shipment. If I can find a way to play a game using only my mouse hand, I will find a way or make one. This being said, learn the hotkeys in Jagged Alliance 3 anyway. If you're a cautious player using Overwatch a lot, generally being careful and using points of elevation to fire down on targets, it can become a miserable mouse fest every turn. Y is Overwatch, T and G cycle elevation, Z and X cycle your squad members' stance, e.g. kneeling, standing or laying down where it's nice and comfy. H is stealth. Learn these. You will be wearing these keys off your keyboard. Lastly, here is some genuine science that resonates profoundly with this game. There is no problem that cannot be solved with the proper application of explosives.
Anti-zombie tactic.
When I first started playing, I saw explosives and thought awesome, and began to just hurl them in every direction, blowing myself up, blowing the structure that was supporting me down, and also becoming disillusioned about how I threw them like a girl. And I'm not talking about a modern girl, I'm talking about a real, genuine, old-fashioned member of the netball B team. I'm not sexist, I was constantly being told to join that team when I was a kid. As a result of my failure, and because I spammed them so rapidly that I quickly ran out, they ended up taking a backseat until late at game. Then I suddenly realised how godly explosives truly are. My squad explosives expert became my principal scout, and I'm talking scouting in force. Unironically, I dressed him up like a little IED guy, took great care of him, and used him as, for want of a better phrase, that guy who goes slightly ahead of my group, scouts, and when he makes contact, I will have options. Nearly all of those options involved blowing random shit up and running away back to the rest of the group, and general war crimes, subject to the location where he started hurling the grenades. My point is, explosives are not just another tool in the toolkit, they are a specialised tactic which can be applied at a specific moment to quickly turn the fight. They are excellent for multiple tasks, principally area denial, debuffing, channeling the enemy, attriting the enemy, demoralising the enemy, destroying enemy cover, a force multiplier in kill zones. And yes, obviously, doing huge alpha strike damage on the enemy if you time them right and they're bunched up, as they say. This is why I started giving flares to my explosives guy, sometimes in the dark and pouring rain, having him go a little way forward and chuck a single flare into the kill zone or ambush point will light the enemy up like a Christmas tree and leave your guys in the dark. Explosives and thrown munitions can turn a hard fight into a turkey shoot, and each thrown munition has a purpose. Learn to use them. FYI, as much as I love Larry, and he is as funny as fuck, Barry is the supremo explosives guy because periodically he produces 2 shaped charges for free. These only explode in a cone pointing away from the thrower, so they can be used surgically to remove stubborn stains and annoying pests. Well, I guess it's time to execute the political opposition and bring this coup to an end. I was wrestling with some thoughts that I couldn't quite clarify, but late one night whilst playing the game it hit me. I think Jagged Alliance 3 is slightly taking the piss out of the players, or more precisely, it's a little bit of a corporate joke at the players' expense. Let me clarify. Now don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the game part of the game, but there was something nagging at me about the narrative design, and then I saw it. I think this game was very craftily designed, and I suddenly realised why none of the comedy was hitting the mark, why I didn't find any of the alleged humour funny, and why all this bullshit about 80s humour and all that shite was simply not entertaining, not edgy, or even attempting to be satire. And it boils down to this. These guys made sure everything about this game adhered to the following directive. They wanted to be able to go to press conferences and tell gamers how this game is full of edgy 80s humour. And then they wanted to be able to walk out of that meeting and walk straight into an ESG compliance meeting, laugh and declare that the game was 100% ESG compliant. Basically, I think Jagged Alliance 3 was very carefully crafted to try and please everyone and not piss anyone off. They didn't want to do anything woke and get a Bud Light effect, but they also didn't want to take any risks and get cancelled by the Twitterati. And I think this is why the game felt so humourless and sterile to me. The game includes all the gun wizardry of franchises like The Division. It is literally so unfaithful to gun mechanics that it could be described by some as kind of anti-gun doctrine. Female mercs are massively overrepresented. All the cannon fodder militia are 100% male. The single strongest unit of fighters in the game is a group of old grannies. The most legendary revolutionary fighter in the country is another old lady. And one of the most annoying and singularly lame and atrocious tropes in the game is the relentless whining and stupidity of the character based on Arnold Schwarzenegger. This awkwardness is then compounded by the fact that the squad member Steroid is a skilled mechanic. He is a big, dumb, muscle-bound mechanic. He is high strength and dumber than a box of rocks. Toxic masculinity, if you will. That's when the trope hit me. The people writing these characters think mechanics are dumb. It seems like a trivial thing, but I'm not sure it is. Like, working with your hands and fixing things is something that a stupid person would do. You have to have led a pretty sheltered life if you think that you can be a highly skilled mechanic and as thick as pig shit. I just couldn't shake the feeling that this is a craftily designed ESG compliant game sailing under the flag of edgy humour. But it's not edgy, and it's rarely humorous. In fact, the only characters that was remotely funny was Larry the Stoner, and that was basically the Doctor from Idiocracy. Now I can set aside the constant pokes at colonialism, the anti-hunter rhetoric, the anti-gun mechanics, the sex-positive characters, and the fact that about 2 jokes land in the whole fucking game. But it's the overall sweep that wasn't sitting right with me, and that sweep is as simple as this. This game systematically checks off ESG compliance messaging constantly, hides it behind a few shit Arnie jokes, a lot of chaos, and ultimately blames the entire shit state of grand shithole chien on white Western colonialists. I am sorry, but all the little hidden references to the 80s are not really nods to the 80s. Just because there is a odd Rambo and Bruce Lee poster secreted on the interiors of the buildings does not magically confer some real essence of the 80s culture. It's like these fucking ingrate kids who wear Che Guevara t-shirts and when questioned on the street about them can't name the dude pictured on their own shirt. Or claim that it's the lead singer of Pearl Jam. Throwing up a few film posters is not 80s culture homage, and besides, Enter the Dragon was 1974 in fuck's name. Bruce Lee was dead a year before its release, so some of the alleged 80s references in the game involve people who were dead 7 years before the 80s even started. I don't know, I mean, is this what qualifies as funny in video games these days? Because I didn't get it. It was like the entire slate of jokes had been written by a committee of interns, vetted by corporate, bounced back by the legal department, scanned by HR, sent off to compliance, and then finalised in a joint meeting between the head of the creative department and their ESG consultancy firm. The comedy is more sterile than a sculpture in a corporate lobby. It was more barren than an 80-year-old nun, and considerably less funny than an 80-year-old nun. Sure, it had its little joke references to loot boxes so they could stay down with the kids and mock all that corporate evil stuff, and to their credit I did struggle to find any THQ Nordic games with loot boxes in them, and they stand opposed to them publicly at least, so kudos for that. But the worthiness and humble bragging aside, their jokes in Jagged Alliance are still about as funny as a burst hemorrhoid, in as much as I'm sure someone somewhere finds this shit funny. But it's not funny. People cheer James fucking Acaster and Nish Kumar, which just goes to show that someone finding something funny does not comedy make. Those fucks lower the tone of a cancer ward. I guess I'm rambling about this so much because I think this is what happens to comedy, humour and creative writing when you are operating in a regime of social constraint. They are trying not to get cancelled. They're trying to be ESG compliant. They are operating in an environment of intense corporate self-censorship. And this is what you get. Sterile, unfunny humour that doesn't offend anyone. And by implication, has no message. I would be the first to appreciate that I sometimes rain down fire and brimstone on a video game and give it a blisteringly negative critical critique, only to announce at the end of the video that I think it's great. Jagged Alliance 3 is possibly an example of that. Maybe it's tough love, maybe it's expectation, or maybe it's just that this is a great game that missed so many tricks and missed so many opportunities to refine and improve on all of the deficiencies of the previous entries in the franchise. Perhaps I'm just a grumpy curmudgeonly arsehole. Of course I am, but I think maybe the other things are true as well. To quote the now legendary video game commentator and destroyer of G4 TV, Frost Urine. Both of these things can be true. I guess I just needed to point out that so much of this game is excellent, but dear Lord, they could have made a masterpiece. Based the weapon balancing on something other than Dungeons and Dragons, reworked a couple of systems like the atrocious modding / mechanical skill test system, made it less corporate friendly and less uncontroversial, got in someone like Bill Burr to write the script.
There is no reason to hit a woman. And I was just like, really? I could give you like 17 right off the top of my head. You could wake me from a drunken stupor, I could still give you like 9. Dude, there's plenty of reasons to hit a woman, you just don't do it.
Why the fuck don't video game companies get in funny people like Bill Burr to write video game dialogue? It would be legendary. Maybe we always hurt the ones we love, or maybe it's a case of tough love, but this game was a slam dunk and most of its failings derive from intentionally trying to be business safe, risk averse, and self-censoring. And similarly, as I've said many times before, why is it that so few video game companies will ever hire a firearms consultant to take the magic out of their gun mechanics? There is no escaping the fact that this game is obsessive. I mean, half the mechanics and design choices in the game piss me off in some way, but I still obsess about taking that diamond mine and upgrading that Winchester 1884 rifle. But Jagged Alliance 3 has not really moved with the times. It's a play-safe reboot. It's like someone walked into a developers meeting and said, make me another Jagged Alliance game, only with higher resolution, don't piss off the wokies, and don't do anything too woke so we get Dylan Mulvaney'd. And don't bother about the firearm mechanics too much. We don't want to come across as pro-gun. Even though they've got an MG42 in the game. What is the video game industry's obsession with the MG42? I just couldn't shake the feeling that this game was a bit smug about itself. Games have a grammar, they have a rule set, and both player and enemy should play by the same rule set. It's fine for a game to ambush the player if there is a way out, and reward you for taking the hard road. What I resent is when a game substitutes genuine difficulty for fucking you around. Jagged Alliance 3 fucks you around sometimes. If you are like me and you want to live with your mistakes and take your losses, it forces you into a corner where you either have to save scum or restart or take a massive hit. Not through failure or mistakes necessarily, but by the game just ambushing you. I did one mission and fucking crocodiles turned up. Maybe alligators, possibly crocodiles, not sure, but definitely the ones that don't make good pets. But unless you know from past experience of that map, or because you've reloaded the game, you will, with 99% surety, lose at least 1 or 2 mercs in that mad bum rush. There's one particular event in the game which broadsides you, and unless you know from a previous playthrough what to expect, if you are unlucky, it can literally bankrupt your economy, trap your guys in bad locations, and cut you off from your supply stashes. The game will let you travel to areas without warning you that there's no route back. I don't mind this mechanic, but there was scant warning that basically that quick hop across the water consigned my entire fucking playthrough to a Greek odyssey of fighting my way back to port, seizing it and reconnecting myself with my captured territory. There is another mission where you leave a bunker and are immediately surrounded and outnumbered 2 to 1, and you have no clue what is going on. And I defy anyone to survive that first time without at least one reload or prepping for precisely that encounter, because you know it's coming. And there it is really, the smugness of Jagged Alliance 3. It's chock full of cheap traps that become easy with some combination of save scumming and multiple playthroughs. Caution, preparation and planning don't play a big enough part. It's one of those games where your team gets T-boned by some completely unavoidable ambush, which you could have never predicted or planned for, and then you go on a forum and say, does anyone else think it's a bit ridiculous that X, Y and Z happened? And everyone is primed to reply, well, if you played the game through 17 times on Uber difficulty, you'd know this is what was about to happen. Blah, blah, blah. Now I think some people confuse difficulty and unpredictability with pure ambush and fuckery, but there is a fundamental difference between difficulty and cheap stunts to ambush the player, so I will use a metaphor. Bomb disposal is one of the most stressful, difficult and high risk professions in the world. As they say, there's no such thing as a bad bomb disposal guy. Do you think they train these guys progressively and methodically, throwing in a few curveballs, or do you think they train them by sending them off into a field on their first job and placing a real IED under their Land Rover, blowing them up and then shouting, what a dickhead, learn to play noob? Well, you can't save scum in IRL, so I'm going to assume it's the former. But similarly, if you're going to stick with the concept that anyone should not be forced to save scum, you should at least apply these rules in game. It just felt sometimes this game broke its own rules and fucked around the player so that people who played it through 8 times could feel smart. I think some of the fanboys will defend this game and shout down anyone who raises the issues and faults, but someone really needs to address the balked maths and hit calculations, because right now the game reminds me of a fairground shooting range where all the air guns have bent barrels and busted sights. I want to truly love this game, and they certainly got some of it very right, but there is a lot of silly shit in this game, like 4x elements, nonsense RNG and the general sterility of the writing. It's still fun and obsessive, but I do wonder whether going back to play an older Jagged Alliance game with a graphics mod might have filled the same spot just as adequately. I looked through the developer's heritage and they are decent, but it was all survival games, Tropico, RPGs, and I couldn't really see any legacy of combat, and maybe that explains at least part of what's going on here. They have all the bells and whistles, the little dials and tooltips, numbers and warnings, mechanics and systems to give the game the illusion that every shot is being treated like it's a masterclass in turn-based ballistics and marksmanship. But then when you click fire, your maxed out sniper can't hit some nonce standing under a fucking street lamp from an elevated position in perfect conditions. But then the nonce will immediately whip out his 9mm, stick his grubby finger in his ear, and have no trouble at all shooting your sniper in the fucking conch through the darkness. I think they're hiding the percentage chances to hit because you could see a true statistic, one or two things would happen. You would realise that your real chance to hit is abysmal, or there's scant relationship between your chance to hit and the actual hitting. I can put up with janky controls, a complete failure to understand real gun balancing and a host of other issues, because Jagged Alliance garners affection for a host of other reasons, especially nostalgia. Those reasons also include your beloved little squad and how you carefully craft and refine them so they excel against the odds in combat. But if you break that relationship between rates in and rates out, then you, to some degree, break the game. Nobody wants to put in lots of effort just to have their squad wiped out by ear-banging dickheads bum-rushing you with 9mm because your squad of expert marksmen can't seem to hit a damn thing. This is why I couldn't stand the XCOM reboot on harder difficulties and stopped playing it altogether. Well, that and the fact they dumbed it down, shit-canned the resource management, oversimplified it so it was no longer really about base mechanics and base management, made it cartoony and silly, did it slightly on the cheap. But the main reason I stopped playing was when I realised that on harder settings the game cheated. You could be 100% behind cover and still get shot. Now, the pros found ways to work through this and around it in large part due to learning precise pathing of enemies, But that's not the point. The point is I have to play by the rules, so it would be at least polite if the enemy AI didn't have magical dev powers to just make my guys miss and make their guys have heat-seeking bullets. The end sequence of the game was a surprisingly nice touch though. On completion of the big finale mission, you get a narrated montage of what happened as a result of your actions in Grand Chien. You know that trope about your actions in games have consequences? Yeah, that old chestnut. Well, on my first playthrough, I did a fairly thorough and systematic job of leaving most of my quests and goals half finished. I let critical people escape. I murdered the wrong fellas and let the wrong people go. I didn't finish certain critical quests that created positive outcomes and added security. Basically, because of my failure to complete the quests and side quests, Grand Chien turned into an even bigger failed state shithole than it was when we left it. Which is no mean feat considering we spent most of our time there murdering hundreds of bad guys, randomly killing civilians in Crossfire and quite literally blowing shit up and trashing the main settlements in massive street battles. When my squad left, most of it looked like Nagasaki, but somehow it actually got worse thanks to our concerted and consistent failures to cap missions. So yes, as they say in the massage business, if you want to have a happy ending, then you need to pay up front. Finish the quests, make sure your crews have at least one person who is maxed out on each stat so you can finish critical wisdom and medical checks, put in the rates, or you will be manufacturing an even more failed state. I am very sorry to say, to me at least, Jagged Alliance 3 is to Jagged Alliance what the XCOM reboot was to the original XCOM, in a less severe way. It's fine, it's obsessive, and will pass the time. It's certainly well made, and definitely worth the money, but I just wasn't quite feeling that magic this time. I would happily recommend Jagged Alliance 3 to anyone, but I would do so with the following caveat. This is a sanitised, safe reboot of the franchise. If you're expecting the game to have improved on its flaws, evolved, or to contain genuine humour, well, you're going to be shit out of luck. But they are operating in an environment where they don't want to cause offence. And let's be honest, I don't know a single decent comedian that hasn't offended someone. Do you? But for now, good luck and happy hunting.